Last time on Shadow Peace, the battle between Fleet Admiral Sakazuki and the Supreme Commander of the Revolutionary Army, Monkey D. Dragon, really started. At first, it appeared like Akainu was fully in control of the flow of the battle, knocking the cloudy human across the battlefield. With every passing moment, his magma grew hotter and hotter, and thus also more dangerous. The damage of the strikes did accumulate, but every knockback path was calculated by Dragon. As time went on, a pattern was drawn on the ground, with rainwater. But not just any pattern, it was the religious symbol of the rain god Sun God. With Dragon floating above the area and Akainu standing at the center, the battle state switched. The circle started to glow brighter and brighter, until a pillar of blue light pierced the heavens. It almost felt like a signal to the gods. And oh boy, did the gods react. The darkest kind of clouds immediately refilled the pierced area, and Dragon shouted out his attack. Rain God's Wrath! Even with a temperature of over 1000 degrees Celsius, this magma human was completely extinguished in a matter of seconds. A devil fruit being able to control water was an incredible thing in itself, as it was powerful by itself, but also a perfect weapon against other devil fruit users. As the water washed over Akainu, not only was his body weakened, but also his confidence. He didn't underestimate Dragon. At least that's what he thought when he started the war, prepared to be the only one leaving this island. In his calculations, the loss of every admiral and all the vice admirals was a big possibility, and that was only against Dragon, but it seems like even that was too positive of a plan. With every extra wave of rain, he just thought Sengoku, Kong, CP0 and the God Knights, all of them should have joined as well. Then the attack finally ended, and Sakazuki fell on one of his knees, his body trembling. Steam continued to rise from his skin that was now covered in hardened magma, and his otherwise rage-filled eyes were now showing a level of concern. He gasped for air, his chest heaving. After almost drowning, every inhale was a struggle. The silence after the storm was deafening. The attack had not only completely extinguished all the heat he had built up from the start of the battle, it also humbled him. Then Dragon landed on the ground again. His expression wasn't the one of a person that just landed a critical attack. It was one of a person disappointed in their opponent. Sakazuki, this is the difference between someone chosen by the gods and someone who is only hurting the world. Today marks the day your tourney ends. Those words were certainly sad, however in his heart, Dragon was conflicted. He lost his commanders, he saw the atrocities of Ohara, but he also knew that Sakazuki wasn't always the cruel absolute justice fleet admiral. He cared about his family, and wanted them to be safe and live a good life. Dragon wants the same, so his next move was mostly filled with frustration instead of the anger otherwise present. The last monkey's hand lashed out, cutting through the heavy silence with an audible crack as it collided with Sakazuki's face. The force of the slap reverberated throughout the battlefield, causing everything to vibrate from the probably heaviest slap to ever happen. Dragon's chest heaved, his breath ragged and full of fury when he felt more of his commander's dying. His eyes, burning with an intensity that could level mountains, bored into Akainu's hardened face, which remained stoic despite the deep red imprint blossoming on his cheek. "You fool!" Dragon shouted, his voice trembling with a mix of rage and frustration. "You've destroyed everything we could have built together!" Sakazuki, the embodiment of discipline and absolute justice, stood firm, though the stinging pain on his face was undeniable. His jaw clenched, eyes narrowed, but he did not flinch, even as Dragon, the wielder of a god's power, loomed over him. Right now he was taller and seething with raw emotion. "You've chosen the path of destruction," Dragon continued, his voice breaking slightly. "When we could have fought for real peace, for a world where people wouldn't have to cower under the shadow of your so-called justice." For a moment, Dragon's anger wavered, replaced by something deeper, something more painful. The corners of his eyes creased, not just with rage, but with the weight of the lost chances, with the loss of brotherhood. They could have been allies, maybe even actual brothers in arms, reshaping the world together, bringing revolution and renewal to the people. But now they stood on opposite sides, separated by Sakazuki's uncompromising vision of justice. Akainu's face remained impassive, though the blow had stuck deeper than just flesh. He stood back up on 2 feet, now towering above Dragon. His voice, gravelly and cold, broke the silence standing between two longtime acquaintances. Peace? You talk of peace? But your methods, Dragon, are no better than mine. You're just another revolutionary blinded by ideals. What the world needs now is order, and I can do that. Dragon's fist trembled at his side, the desire to strike again simmering beneath his skin for a second before he blitzed towards the fleet admiral and punched him in his face. Order? You call this order? What you've done is tyranny. You've turned yourself into the very thing you told me you wanted to destroy. Are you just that stupid? The frustration in Dragon's voice was palpable, not just because of the differing ideologies, but because deep down he had once believed that Sakazuki could see beyond his rigid doctrine of justice. They could have freed the world together, bringing about real change. Instead, here they were, clashing, not as partners, but as mortal enemies. You're wrong, Dragon said, quieter now, but no less intense. He remembered a time he spent together with the woman he loved. If he had an ally like Sakazuki by his side, he maybe could have even taken the chance to become a father. But in a world like this, it was way too risky, too big of a weakness. We could have changed everything. Together. Sakazuki's gaze faltered for the briefest moment, a crack in his armor of resolve. But it was gone as quickly as it came, and he straightened his posture, rigid, unwavering, absolute. Justice has no room for weakness, Dragon. Remember that. The red dog threw a magma fist straight at Dragon, not hesitating a second, but what the son of the hero of the Marines did surprised him completely. Dragon's face twisted, a mixture of sorrow and rage. He turned away, showing his back to his opponent, fists still clenched, and muttered under his breath, "Then you've already lost, Sakazuki. Goodbye." In the instant the gigantic magma fist was about to connect with the backside of the Supreme Commander of the Revolutionary Army, multiple blasts of divine rainwater fired back at the Fleet Admiral. Heavenly retribution. Unlike with his previous attack, Dragon did not put much energy into shouting the technique's name, but the eruption of water not only extinguished and completely destroyed the magma fist, but they also pierced through Akainu's body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 holes in the shape of a cross were shot through Sakazuki's body, starting from his belly button to his chest, then 2 to the side on his shoulders, 1 on the neck, and 1, finally, directly through his nose. All 7 cleanly went through his body, taking chunks out of him. This was critical. This was life-threatening if he couldn't quickly fill them back up with magma replacements. But after all the water that poured over him, he got weakened too much to do that right now. Dragon continued to walk away, and behind his back, 1 more water bubble started to form. This one big enough to destroy the entire upper body of Akainu. The bringer of renewal had cast his judgment, and the hydro cannon got blasted towards the Fleet Admiral. And this is the end of today's episode of Shadow Piece. I hope you enjoyed it. And yes, this is a very big thing that happened. Dragon completely dominated when he started going on the counter-offensive. But how it's going to turn out, how things are going to develop, what Akainu is going to do, what Dragon is going to do. And well, there's still 1 more person on the island together with them right now. What all that is going to be, you will have to come back next episode to find it out. So, all that for me to be said is stay happy, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay cultured. Pyro out. Bye!